Welcome to this episode of Your Wellness MD podcast. Family physician and wellness expert, Dr. Daniela Steyn, has meaningful conversations that will take your health to the next level. She explores the connection between a healthy body, mind, and soul, and shares tips that will enable you to thrive. Dr. Steyn has helped thousands of people have a better quality of life by improving their health with science-based knowledge, education, better nutrition, mindfulness, and lifestyle choices. Join us today, empowering you to live your best life with optimal health.
Hi, I'm Dr. Daniela Steyn, and today I have Caroline Elisabeth with me. Caroline is a certified life and health coach. Welcome, Caroline.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's so great to have you here. I've had so much great feedback from you, from other people, and I couldn't wait to have you on our show. So Caroline works with women who are ready to delete old habits and thoughts and really step into a brilliant life. All of us don't live our optimal lives, and that's a passion of Caroline, really to help people to embrace that brilliant life that we're meant to live, the brilliant life that each one of us desire and deserve. And Caroline specifically works with private coaching. She has a coaching program called Unleash Your Brilliance, and we'll have all the links below. So Caroline, tell me, how did you get involved into coaching?
So my coaching began in 2016. I hired a business coach to help with my then marketing business. And I realized then how powerful coaching was for me, not only just for my business, but really me personally. It really tapped into a part of me that I didn't realize. And just having that space and those questions to help me kind of focus and refocus really, really helped me. So I began coaching my marketing clients on their marketing messages. And that's when I realized I really enjoy helping people with their lives. And so I became certified as a life and a health coach. And now I help with women in many areas of their life, particularly their professional life and starting a business or being in business. And that's it in a
That's
nutshell.
amazing. And you're passionate about people. You studied social work, that's part of who you are. You're really passionate about that wholeness of people, not just the business, not just the health, but seeing that whole picture.
Yes, I am so passionate. So my business is called Build Your Brilliance because we all have a brilliance within us. We all have inspiration. We all have creativity, and just a side to us that so many of us, especially unfortunately women, tend to suppress. And
Yes.
we don't bring it out, especially in our careers, especially in our businesses, as much as we can, we should. And so Build Your Brilliance is about digging in deeper and finding that brilliance and bringing that out.
That's amazing. It's incredible the work you do. And just generally being a health coach, being a life coach. So this was something quite new to me. As a medical doctor, I've never really encountered coaching before I've done lifestyle medicine and before I've done functional medicine. And even now, I'm teaching medical students at our university. And in teaching, it is incredible the amount of education we go through, but we don't go through coaching at all. And even though I've seen the game changer that coaching has been in my practice, just because we have coaches that our patients work with, it's hard for me to notice, and there's so much that we have to go through in med school. There's really limited time to work on coaching. We can't work on coaching all day. Yesterday, we were covering so many things when we covering nutrition and hormones, endocrinology, gut absorption. When we're going through all these steps, it's tricky to say, but step back. Coaching is the most important. But from a patient's perspective, coaching is such a big part of it, because it doesn't help if your doctors say A, B, and C is wrong. You have to do D and E, and then we just leave people to make those changes, those lifestyle changes on their own. And that's really where you come in to help people who want to make those changes. And if they do have a goal they'd like to achieve, you help them with that. So what do you do if someone comes to you?
Okay, so I mean, just to backtrack on the coaching, I mean, it is such like a very, it's an amazing tool, right? So it doesn't even have to be something that, I just do or whatever. It's an amazing tool to have in your back pocket when, it's time to allow someone to feel empowered to make their decisions. And that's what it helps people feel empowered and be empowered to make the decisions that are right for them going forward. So
For
so
parenting, I found that very helpful. As I learned about coaching and I did some training in coaching myself, I honestly became a better parent.
yeah.
And you must have seen that, right? Because you're a parent as well. It's different if you
Yes.
coach a child rather than telling your child what they
I
should do.
I find myself coaching my 12-year-old a lot. I have a 12-year-old and an 8-year-old, and especially the 12-year-old, but I don't think he's open to it. That's the other thing about coaching. You have to be ready for coaching. So I've realized that a couple times.
So you work with people, that's the key. That's number one, who want to make a change in their life. We can't force change onto people. We can enable them, but we can't make them change.
No. So, okay. So when somebody comes to me and they desire to make a change in their life, one of the first things we look at is, okay, there's maybe talk of a direction you want to take your life in, but many of us get caught up in that kind of the whole desire. Okay, I want to work out, for example. I want to eat more healthy. I want a new job, all of that. But the desire to do something different, that can trick our brain into thinking that it's already done. And I just want to bring that up first because I don't know if you've heard of this study that was done by psychologists. It was shared by the American Psychological Association. It concludes that, when you talk about wanting to do something, when you fantasize about, your goals and share your goals before you begin, you anticipate that success right now, right here, and then your motivation gets lost. And that kind of happens to so many of us, me included. It's happened to me too. But so the trick is, so when somebody wants to change, it's not just talking about change. It's not just talking about taking your life in a different direction. It's, saying what you want with conviction to change who you are as well. And so you want a workout routine. Well, who do you have to be to have that routine?
Oh, that's very valuable, eh?
Yeah. So then the next question could be, okay, well, how do you become the person to make that change? And this is where I want to talk about habits.
Yes, which is a
You,
big thing. Yes, yes. So chat
yeah.
with me a little bit about habits and how it connects with our desire to change.
So habits, I mean, if we all have habits, we all have the habits that kind of get us out of bed in the morning. We are on autopilot, and that's what a habit is meant to do. Habits are often there to help us through our life, help us, brush our teeth and get out of the driveway without even thinking twice. So if you're kind of in this habit of not doing what you say you want to do, so you're already in the habit of not working out, for example, you're going to have to shift the current habits that you have in order to create the new life that you want. So what I just so backtracking to habits, I just want to, you might ask, like, what is a habit? What kind, like, tell me more about habits, right? So I just want to talk about habits in terms of what a habit loop is. Because there are habits that no longer serve us and our new goals. They can be, quite part of our in identity, and that's because we're on this loop. We're on this ending loop that's hard to get off. We're on like the hamster wheel of our habit, and in order
And
to
habits
change,
can be good or bad, right? So my
yeah,
habit
oh,
of
for sure,
brushing teeth every day is good. So certain habits
yeah,
are good, but that is when you notice that you have this habit that's not serving you, that you want to change
exactly.
it.
Exactly. So even, I mean, having the desire to make change alone should be kind of your alert system to, okay, this certain habit is no longer serving me. Maybe it served you at some point, but the habit of staying in bed and not working out and just feeling a certain way about yourself is no longer serving you. So it's important to have that kind of that awareness when you have a desire. That's kind of your ping to say, okay, I want to change a habit. I want to shift something about my life in order to get to where I truly want to get. And so, how to kind of go beyond that when you have that awareness is to really become aware of the habit loops that are keeping you stuck. So, a habit loop,
Yes.
you
What's a
got to
habit loop?
recognize those habit loops. Um, so, and I just want to backtrack a little bit too, is that your habits, yes, they will always provide a reward for you. And that is what a habit loop does also. So picture that never ending circle. You have this habit loop keeping you stuck. You want to work out, but you're not working out. So something is triggering you, or an emotion or a thought is kind of keeping you in place. Your behavior, because of that emotion or thought, is keeping you in place. And there's a reward for that. There's always a reward for a habit. So back to the workout example, you are triggered, you think, okay, I'm going to go work out. The alarm goes off in the morning. You decide, that thought comes in, that behavior comes in. Oh, I could sleep a little longer. The reward is I get to be in bed a little longer, be comfy and warm in my warm bed in the middle of winter. Let's not work out today. So that's an ongoing habit loop, and that's going to be really hard to break. So,
And that's a
you know,
reasonable habit loop to have, because it is easier in summer to get up early and go for a workout than it is in winter.
it is a lot easier to get up and go for a workout in the summer.
Uh,
So just even just recognizing that you have a habit loop,
yes.
like now that I've talked about the habit loop, I want everybody watching this to be like, okay, where is that loop? What is triggering, my thought? What behavior is keeping me from accomplishing my goal? And what is the reward when I don't accomplish the goal? There's always a reward with a habit. So the key is to shift the reward, right?
And it doesn't have to be a big habit, right? It can be small habit. That's where that book,
Yes.
which was a game changer for me when I read it, Atomic Habits by James Clear,
Yes.
really talk
Yes.
about it can be. Have you read that book?
I have read that book.
You
He
have.
is
It's a great
excellent.
book, right? And he
Yes.
specifically talks about atomic habits. It doesn't have to be. Sometimes when people think about habit, they think it might be the habit to quit smoking or a habit. It doesn't have to be big. It can be these small little changes that if you just implement it consistently, can give you a big reward in the long run. But it's
Yes.
just to make those small little changes.
It's the micro habits that create big changes. So there's, a saying I like to share is small hinges swing big doors. It's
Yes, oh,
the,
that's
you look
brilliant.
at a huge door, look at the hinges, they're all small, right?
Yes. Oh,
So
sure. Yeah, that's a great one.
it is really about allowing yourself, not, I mean, you don't have to have a big, so let's say if you want to get healthier, you want to move more, a workout routine can simply mean I just want to move more. You can say to yourself, instead of exercising, I'm just going to move today. Walking the
Yes.
dog is going to be enough for me today because yesterday that wasn't part of my habit loop.
Yes. Yes. And that's a
So
big one because now you also said that every habit gives some kind of reward. So ideally, if your new habit can give you that reward, like walking the dog, moving, you will get a reward once you do that, right?
oh, for sure. Yes. And that is where, so when you're thinking about the reward part, how do you override the reward? So let's say, okay, sleeping in bed a little longer, for example, instead of getting up and walking the dog during that time, you know, just thinking about, okay, what's the whole reward of walking the dog, right? Could be, I'm moving, yay, or the dog is getting out. But instead of thinking of it as just, something you're doing instead of being in bed, it's important to have a real deep why and a motivating factor behind
Ah, yes.
why you want to work out, why you
Mm.
want to move more, why, like, what is the true reason? So it could be, you want more energy for your kids. You want to just have a more clear mind in the morning for work. You want to approach it with more energy instead of a whole, a whole pot of coffee, right?
So while
Or
we're on this topic, little bit derailing, but why I'm passionate about this habit is there's all this science that shows that going for that walk first thing in the morning really helps to set your biological clock. So to do that walk outside rather than on the treadmill. And being exposed to morning light sets your biological clock. It improves your metabolism. It improves your sleep at night. It improves your whole cognition. So it decreases brain fog. It improves your attention, decreases your risk for ADHD, helps you to focus during the day. So that is quite a good habit to
I
start with.
agree.
If anyone is interested in starting with a habit after you listen to this today, is to go for that walk first thing in the morning. And then also, if you go for that walk before you look at your phone, that's quite a big one. And before you have coffee, that really gives you that space to process your day, things that will happen, things that you didn't process during the night.
Yes.
You now
Yeah.
have that opportunity to process. So that's a good habit I'd recommend to our listeners to start off with, that walk first thing in the morning.
Exactly. And I mean, somebody might not even know or realize the benefits to add as their deeper motivating factor. So this is actually also why it's so good to talk to you, talk to a doctor, talk to a coach, do your research. Okay, what will all the benefits bring me, and what is very important to me about all of those benefits. So we all have our core values. We all have our own, things that we value. So even just doing your research and talking to professionals and understanding, okay, what are the benefits of more movement in my day and what speaks to me? Really,
Yes.
it needs to hit home that what speaks to me. It could be, that clarity. It could be, just releasing the technology for a little bit so that you could start your day right. And then what about that is so important. And the key to shifting and making positive change in your life is not only the habits and recognizing the habit loops that are keeping you stuck and creating a new habit loop, but also diving into why is this important to
Mm.
you as the individual person. Um, and and then you have a deeper reason, you have more pushing you forward than just a goal.
Yes, and that why will look different for different people. Some people need to go for that walk first thing in the morning to help lower blood pressure and cortisol. Some people have to go for that walk to improve their metabolism. Some people need to go for that walk to manage their anxiety or mental health. So when you really understand why you're doing that, that will also help to drive, right? So and then you also need that goal. You're not just doing this habit for the sake of a habit, you do it with that big picture goal. So tell me a little bit about goals, because I know you teach your clients to set goals and how to set SMART goals. Can you talk to me about
Mm.
that? We've spoken about SMART goals before on this podcast, but I think it's so important. So if any of our listeners are new to that, will you chat about SMART goals a bit?
Yeah, well, I personally believe that the key to setting a goal that is right for you and something that you want to stick with is something that you in your heart want to say yes to and isn't so big that it feels unattainable when you say it. It needs to both feel exciting, and you need to kind of dig in deeper with yourself about why you're setting that goal. And then working towards shifting the habits that are keeping you stuck and keeping you from that goal. One thing I will say, I was thinking as well, is when you have a goal, so you're setting a goal that is attainable, that is measurable, that is, one that you can
Realistic.
achieve
So it's
in a
something,
certain time frame. So I work with
yes.
my clients in 90 days, and a lot of goals can be achieved in those 90 days. It's not too quick, it's not, too long. And if it is a bigger goal, then that is at least a great time frame to know that you're working towards that bigger goal. But having that timely understanding, okay, this goal can actually work. I can measure it. I can, understand it can be done in this time. Offers you that clarity about whether or not that is a goal to set, along with understanding, okay, this is something that I feel motivated to achieve because there's a deeper reason for me to achieve it.
Do you recommend, sorry, you can go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you recommend people write these goals down? For me, it's very helpful to have that big vision board against my wall to have my
Sure.
big picture vision, but then also to write down my smaller goals, as we're breaking it down to your 90 days or your shorter goals, to write it down. It helps me to get clarity. Is that something you recommend?
Absolutely. So I call it anchoring it in. So you have this goal. How are you going to anchor in the motivating factor behind the goal? Why? So I always recommend not just, a vision board with the goal, but also little reminders of why you're going after that goal in the first place. So back to the workouts, the movement, the more energy example. If you want more energy for your kids this summer, for example, or you want to look better in your bathing suit, understand why that is. And then write even little post-it notes and little reminders or something that works for you specifically to continually anchor in that goal. And another thing I recommend is to declutter, not just your house, but if you have a goal, back to workout because we're on the subject. But any
That's a good
goal.
one.
Yeah. But if you want more movement, what is cluttered in your schedule right now that is going to prevent you from getting up in the morning or in the evening, whenever you choose to provide to have more movement, or to exercise more?
Now, that's a big thing
Clear
because
your
we get
calendar.
cluttered very easily as moms, as working moms. Uh, Melinda Gates writes in her book, The Moment of Lift, that if we don't set our own schedule, someone else will. And I see that time and again, if I just keep open space for myself, it gets very easily filled by everyone around me. So it's quite important that I must set my own schedule so it doesn't just get cluttered by everything around me.
That is such a good point because, and I mean, that can be said for all of life too. I mean, if you're not going to run your own life and set your own goals, it will somehow get set for you. There will always be space for something.
More
What is important
demands.
to you and what can you say no to in order to say yes to what you want to achieve?
And that's a big one, right? To be
It's a
able
big one, and that's a
yes,
whole
to
other
say no,
other
talk on its own. To learn
whole
how
other
to say
episode.
no. Yes, how to say no and how
Yeah.
to set boundaries. But that's quite important when you set your goals, when you change these habits. Even
Yes.
these habits that you're talking about now, getting up first thing in the morning to go for a run or to do some exercise, that means you have to say no to quickly reading your email, quickly checking your social media feed. You have to say no to social media in order to say yes to whichever habit you want to establish.
Exactly. So back to our goal setting and just understanding. So first it's about understanding the habits that are keeping you stuck right now. And then it's understanding, okay, the motivating factor that is going to switch that reward of that habit loop and create a new reward for you to get up in the morning and work out or whatever goal you have. It's about
Yes.
shifting and then decluttering anything that could get in the way between you and that goal. And that includes physical, it includes thoughts too, and it
Mm.
includes calendar. And then anchoring it in, having reminders like a vision board or something that will, sit in your kitchen or your bathroom or something, just to always remind you of why you're doing it.
Oh, that's profound. That's so powerful. I do a lot of lifestyle medicine where people want to make lifestyle changes And in order to make lifestyle changes to cure diseases or prevent illness, to make those lifestyle changes, we have to change our habits, right? It's not just a diet or just some exercise. It's really a lifestyle that we need to change. And if we want to change a lifestyle, we need to change our habits. So the tips you gave us here are so powerful to really think of that goal, to think of which loops we are currently in, to make our goals smart in order to be able to achieve them. And to ensure the success in the long term, we have to get rid of the clutter, right? Get rid of clutter in our schedule and also clutter in our minds. And I found that is very helpful for people with anxiety or mental, any depression, to recognize that clutter in your head. We often think negative things, and to recognize it as clutter, and these thoughts are not serving me, these emotions are not serving me, to identify it and to stop it, to replace it with very purposeful thoughts. And what I recommend people to replace it with is typically gratitude. And I know that you're a passionate advocate for gratitude as well. Can you talk to us a bit about gratitude?
Absolutely. It's funny you brought that up because I brought that up to my oldest last night. He does not like school.
Oh,
And
that's so hard.
he was off sick and he was going to school today. I said, and I often ask him this question, well, what are 3 things that you can be thankful for? Pick them, find them, think of them throughout the day. They can be as small as it's pizza day.
That's a big one. That's for my kids. Their top one is pizza day at school.
But when you're practicing gratitude, you're shifting your brain away from that, that negative space that a lot of our brains tend to default to. We all kind of have the saboteur part of our brains, that judge, that, part that just wants to kind of bring us into a different place, where having the gratitude and practicing how much you're thankful for the various things in your life and the people in your life does kind of reset and rewire the direction that your brain may want to go in. And that's another habit loop to start kind of thinking about, okay, what is triggering, say, the default negative mode of your brain? What is the behavior? What has been the reward? And what can now be the new reward? So practicing gratitude, lean into your body and feel how good it feels when you think of everything that you can be grateful for. It really does change not only your brain, but also the way your body feels.
That is profound. That's such a big thing. So with specifically, and I teach at the hospital where I work, I teach that to all my patients that get admitted for mental health reasons, because sometimes you might find it very hard to be grateful for something when you're in a very difficult spot emotionally. But there's research that shows us that, first of all, to default onto negative emotions are very easy because our brains are wired for survival. So when we think about something happy or positive, your brain identifies it as that it's not a threat for your survival, and it let go of that emotion or thought. But when there is a negative emotion, your brain immediately think, oh, there's a threat, there's something negative, this might threaten my survival. So your brain holds on to that. Then it's so easily, when you're on autopilot, to just go into that negative loop. But if you don't recognize it and you allow that, then those pathways in your brain actually become stronger. Then they've done these studies where they looked at monks who meditate on gratitude. And they sit there, they are wherever they're meditating, somewhere on a mountaintop. They don't have a lot of earthly possessions, but they would meditate on things such as that they are grateful for this bowl of soup. They're grateful for the rising sun. They're grateful for the wind. And as they're meditating on the things that they are grateful for, those pathways in their brains become stronger. And when we do functional MRIs, their areas for depression actually become smaller and smaller, and their happiness and reward centers in their brains physically becomes bigger and bigger. There's this incredible YouTube video that you can have a look at, The Happiest Man in the World, Matteo Riccardo, where they've actually done all these studies, put all these electrodes on his brain, and they found then that if we implement the same principles, we can become happier. So you don't have to be a monk somewhere on a mountaintop to get this benefit of meditating on gratitude. They've then done studies of people in New York where it's people like you and me, and they taught them how to meditate on gratitude, as you said, to identify those 3 things that you're grateful for, and to set away some time every day for 5 minutes, and you can work it up to 15 minutes to be grateful and to meditate on the things you're grateful for. And then they've shown after there's different studies been done, but the specific study I'm thinking about, after a couple of weeks, they've already seen that people who do this consistently, they became happier on questionnaires where they scored them. Their blood pressure levels dropped, cholesterol levels dropped, all these health indicators showed the improved outcome by meditating on gratitude. That is so profound. That's something that's free. That's something we can do every day. To just find that 1 or 2 things we're grateful for, and we become better at it, right?
Yes.
That's what I've noticed in my own life.
Yes, I have noticed that in my own life also. And I've noticed my nervous system responds very well to these mindfulness practices. And that's I mean, I love hearing studies like that, because I mean, I can feel it in my own life as well, just as someone who has dealt with anxiety and panic my entire life, and just being able to calm that parasympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response, by practicing gratitude and just calming the brain. Another, I love working with breath work also.
That's a big one. That's a very big one, breath work. Yes.
Yeah. And there's just so many mindfulness tools that can help bring you kind of back to centered. And then when you're centered and you feel less, nervous or less anxious or go, you can then see opportunities that can bring you towards your goals better. It's not so much the tunnel vision. I need to go this way because my brain's telling me. So I do definitely notice the difference.
So to quickly summarize it to people who are not familiar with breath work, and I have a blog on my website and also have another YouTube video specifically on breath work, but just a 30-second summary. When you are stressed out, your body secretes adrenaline and cortisol. It's a natural response, and you need that to run away. If a bear is chasing you, you need that. But then when we secrete it continuously, it does increase our risk of illness, of autoimmune diseases. It impairs our sleep. So a very easy way to reverse your sympathetic stress response and to stimulate your parasympathetic system is by taking very deep breaths. When you do take deep breaths, you stimulate your vagus nerve, which innervates your diaphragm. And then by stimulating your vagus nerve with these breathing exercises, you stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, and it helps you to relax. It helps us to sleep better. It helps us to be more present in our bodies. So it's such a powerful tool when you start implementing it. I teach it to my patients in hospital who have chronic pain, who has a very hard time dealing with pain. Breathing exercises has been shown to have such a big impact on managing pain, managing anxious moods, anxious thoughts. Yes, it might be a game changer for you. Head over to my website and read through that blog. Look at my YouTube video on breathing. I'm sure for a lot of our listeners, that will be very helpful.
Yes, I'm breathing right now. Thank you.
Caroline, thank you so much for your time. It was lovely chatting with you. I will put links below, and please send us a message. Comment, tell us, what is most important to you? Which habits do you want to break? We answer all our questions. So you can email me, or you can just comment below, whichever platform you're listening or watching. Tell us which goals you're trying to achieve, which habits you're trying to break, which habit loops have you recognized in your own life.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Caroline. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode today by medical doctor Daniela Steyn. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our newsletter at www.wellnessmdhealth.com to stay up to date on educational resources that will take your quality of life to the next level. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your healthcare provider. Never disregard medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. Remember, you are created to thrive.